بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. Hafidh bin Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala says, وَمَرَاتِبُ الْجَرْحِ. Also from the important things to know regarding this science and this discipline is the levels of al-jarh, the levels of the narrators being graded and criticized. We mentioned before the two reasons behind a hadith being rejected, a-saqt or a-ta'n. And we mentioned asbab a-ta'n or wujuh a-ta'n fi rawi, the reasons behind a narrator being criticized and his level being downsized. We mentioned that. But now he wants to actually mention the levels of jarh. Those are reasons behind jarh. Either the narrator is unknown, either the narrator is a liar, either the narrator has a poor memory, either the narrator became senile, either the narrator is a sinner, etc. But here, what are the actual specific words used to make jarh on a narrator? He says, وَأَسْوَأُهَا. He says, the worst of them all, الْوَصْفُ بِأَفْعَلَ كَأَكْذَبِ النَّاسِ. He says the ugliest is for one to say af'al, which means the most, or the greatest, or the biggest. كَأَكْذَبِ النَّاسِ, such as one saying he's the greatest liar from among the people. أَكْذَبِ النَّاسِ. You'll never find more lies among a person, or in a person, except in fulan. That's worse than him just being called a liar. He says, ثُمَّ دَجَّالٌ أَوْ وَضَّاعٌ أَوْ كَذَّابٌ. He says, after that comes the normal depiction, and that is for a person to be called Dajjal. He's a Dajjal. The word Dajjal, like we say, Dajjal, al-Masih Dajjal, meaning a great liar, a great deceiver. أَوْ وَضَّاعٌ, a fabricator. أَوْ كَذَّابٌ, or just plain out a liar. وأسهلها لين أو سيء الحفظ أو فيه مقال. He says in the lightest or the slightest of these, the easiest, the lowest level from one aspect, which is also considered to be the highest level, it depends on which direction you start from, is when a person is said to be layyin, soft. He's soft. أو سيء الحفظ, or he has a bad memory. أو فيه مقال, or we say it like this, fihi maqal. Some things regarding him. He's not the best narrator. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed. Okay, but he's not a liar. So what he's trying to prove here is that there are alfadh, and there are maratib al-alfadh. There are words that are used concerning the jarh of a narrator. And these words have meanings. These words have meanings, and these words, they point towards levels, as the all narrators of hadith are not on one level. And that a narrator, as we explained before, he could be made weak or declared to be weak because of something that is natural and beyond his human power, and being made to have a very bad memory, or to have some type of mental retardation or something like this. Something that stops him from being a good narrator, naturally. And then there are other things in which he chooses himself, such as lying and fabricating or being a sinner. Khairan inshaAllah ta'ala. He then says, وَمَرَاتِبِ التَّعْدِيلِ, and also the levels of the exact opposite of a ta'dil. When we praise a narrator and we give him some type of a testification to this narrator's level, the opposite of al-jarh. And this science, sometimes it's called ilm al-jarh wa ta'dil, and other times it's called ilm al-ruwat, and other times it's called ilm al-rijal. And it's basically talking about who the narrators are, where they come from, what are their names, when were they born, who are their teachers, and what are their levels? What are their levels? Now, he says, وأرفعها الوصف بأفعل كأوثق الناس. He says the highest level of ta'deel is just like the highest level of jarh. And that is to say, he's the strongest of people. أفعل الناس, the greatest of narrators, the most truthful of narrators, the most reliable of men. ثم ما تأكد بصفة أو صفتين كثقة ثقة أو ثقة حافظ. Number two is when a person is mentioned with, says, a double praise with the same word or a different word. The two adjectives that are mentioned, such as ثقة ثقة. ما حال فلان, this narrator, what is he like? ثقة ثقة, trustworthy trustworthy. Or ثقة حافظ, using a different word but using two of them at the same time. وأدناها ما أشعر بالقرب من أسهل الجرح أو التجريح كشيخ. He says, and the lowest level of ta'deel, the lowest level of a narrator making the mark, like a D student, the lowest level of passing, is when a person is mentioned and it really isn't a stab, but it isn't a pat on the back either. And it's a mention that is pushing him close to the first level of jarh, such as the word shaykh. The word shaykh in the sciences of hadith doesn't mean someone that's old, or doesn't mean someone who is learned or scholar, but it means someone who's, he's okay. Nothing special about him. He's all right. Like we said, a D student. He passed the test, yeah, but he's not a special student. Nothing worthy of mention. He's not outstanding. A C student at best. At best. Khairan inshallah. So therefore, if we had a scale and we wrote the scale, we will find that these two contrast worlds must meet up. Al-jarh and ta'deel have to meet. So from one aspect, the top of the list is the worst level of jarh. And the lower you get, you're getting closer to the first level of a ta'deel. It depends, it can go both ways. Khairan inshallah. Perhaps we'll make an illustration for this at another time. So what's important is to know a shahid. What's important is what? Is that in the sciences of hadith, there is a branch or sub-branch or subgenre known as ilm al-rijal or ilm al-jarh wa ta'deel. And it is a detailed science which meticulously grades and sifts through the narrators of hadith. Khairan inshallah. He then says, وَتُقْبَلُ التَّزْكِيَةُ مِنْ عَارِفٍ بِأَسْبَابِهَا وَلَوْ مِنْ وَاحِدٍ عَلَى الْأَصَحِّ. He says in tazkiyah, praising the narrator, mentioning good about him, saying he's thiqah, saying he's hafid, saying he's reliable. Ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, he says that the correct view, once more this shows us that it is not consensus of the scholars, it is not consensus of the ulama of hadith. He says the correct view, his reservation, his madhab, is that it is to be accepted from one imam. عارفٍ بأسبابها. He says someone who knows the conditions and the reasons behind a person giving tazkiyah. Al-asah. He says the correct view is that if just one imam praises this narrator and there's nothing else that goes against it, that's contradictory to it, then we accept it. So we have a narrator and we have no one who spoke about him except for Imam Ahmad. Based off of this theory, it would be valid for us to accept the tawthiq, the tazkiyah, the ta'deel of Imam Ahmad. Imam Ahmad saying that he is trustworthy, he's strong, he's a good narrator. Khairan inshallah, even if it's just one. With the condition that this person of tazkiyah, this muzakki, be someone who says, arif bi asbabiha, someone who knows the reasons behind this narrator being praised, i.e., human nature, and let alone the Islamic nature, for a person to think good of someone, and for a person to take towards the outward appearance, and for a person to look at the goodness in one's heart. This person, he's religious, he's pious, he's righteous, he's a gentleman. So therefore, he has to be a good narrator of hadith. He has to be. He has to be a good narrator of hadith. Look at him. Look at the henna in his beard, the sajda mark on his forehead. He's a righteous man. So therefore, we can rely on him. No, that is unacceptable. Rather, he has to know the reasons behind tazkiyah or ta'dil. And a person's righteous lifestyle or religious devotion has nothing to do with scholastic precision. Nothing to do with scholastic precision. And vice versa. There may be someone who's extremely scholarly and studious, but is a sinner. A wicked, rebellious, disobedient servant to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, the thiqah is the one who has both. He's religious and righteous and scholarly or scholastically sharp. So therefore, the concept of just praising someone just because of their religion and their religious practice isn't good enough. Nor is it good enough for a person to be deceived and tricked by the outward appearance, judging a book by its cover, and that's it. Is the cover important? Without a question. Is the outside important? Yes, it is. We're not like those who say the outside means nothing. No, that's not true. Outside shows what's in the inside, oftentimes, but not absolutely. Not what? Absolutely. Khairan, inshallah ta'ala. He then says, rahimahullah ta'ala, وَالْجَرْحُ مُقَدَّمٌ عَلَى التَّعْدِيلِ إِنْ صَدَرَ مُبَيَّنًا مِنْ عَارِفٍ بِأَسْبَابِهِ فإن خلع عن التعديل قُبِلَ مجملا على المختار. He says, and al-jarh, stabbing the narrator, attacking the narrator, and we explained this before, scholastically. Now, he says this takes precedence over ta'dil, if the ta'dil is general and vague. In other words, we have someone who says that this narrator is da'if, he's weak. And then we have another imam who says that he's a good narrator. He's a good narrator. He's okay. He's acceptable. It's mubham. It doesn't have any type of specific detail towards it. He says, then we take the bad words over the good words. Why is this? There is a long argument regarding this. And it isn't something which they agree upon, as it clearly mentions. If there's no ta'dil whatsoever, قُبِلَ مُجْمَلًا, then we take the jarh without no mention of its reason. They have a long argument regarding this issue, and they say that one who speaks down or speaks ill of someone, and he's arif bi asbabihi, as we mentioned, he knows the reasons. This person himself is a person of knowledge and righteousness and piety. He clearly knows something about this narrator that the one who praised him doesn't. He has some extra knowledge. He has some what? Some extra knowledge. And it's unnecessary for us to expose and unveil the reasons behind this Muslim being looked down upon if we don't have to. Khairan, inshallah ta'ala. That's in brief. Some very important issues here with regards to the danger of people dealing with this science in general. Science of hadith, let alone when we get into the dawah field. We start speaking about dawah, talking about this sheikh, this scholar, this student of knowledge. He talks about many things here about the danger of talking about a Muslim without truth. And a person's low and base desires, personal gain, ulterior motives, rivalries, all of these different issues and problems, money, political power, influence, etc. The people have to be very careful talking about the honor of a Muslim. That's all we'll mention for now. We've explained this in other places. Moving forward, He says, وَالْجَرْحُ مُقَدَّمٌ عَلَى التَّعْدِيلِ. He then says, رحمه الله, فصل ومن المهم معرفة كنى المسمين وأسماء المكنين ومن اسمه كنيته ومن كثرت كناه أو نعوته ومن وافقت كنيته اسم أبيه أو بالعكس أو كنيته كنية زوجته. He says another very important branch when it comes to the narrators is to know their technonyms or their by names or their kunyas. Abu Abdurrahman, Abu Ahmed, Abu Aisha, Abu such and such, Ahmed, Musa, Abdurrahman, and such. For a person to know the narrators who go by kunyas and are also, or they're famously known by their kunyas, or those who aren't known by their kunyas, they're known by their first names. What are their kunyas? Vice versa. He says, and for a person to know, he says, وَمَنْ اسْمُهُ كُنْيَتُهُ, and those whose names are their kunyas. وَمَنْ كَثْرَتْ كُنَاهُ أَوْ نُعُوتُهُ, and those who have a lot of names, a lot of nicknames, a lot of abus, and those whose kunyas are exact as their father's names, or vice versa, or their kunyas is the kunya of their wives. What he's trying to prove here is what we previously mentioned with regards to the whole concept of al-muttafiq wal-muftariq, al-mu'talif wal-mukhtalif, as-sabiq al-lahiq, riwayat al-akabir al-asagir, all of that, the mubham, the muhmal, the majhul, etc. When it comes to distinguishing and differentiating between the narrators and knowing who's who and who isn't who, and the names not being mixed up and jumbled up. And if a person is mentioned here with the name and there with the name and there with the name, it's the same individual, or it's a different individual. Or qalb, is the name switched? Is it reverted? Is it inverted? Is it messed up? Or is that his actual name? His name is his kunya. He doesn't have a name, but his kunya. Or a laqab, for example, like we say a nickname, al-a'raj, mathalan. That's the important thing here, is to show the precision of the sciences of hadith with regards to classifying the narrators, giving them proper serial numbers. The way how many products come out of this factory or models from this company, we can trace it back and find out when it was made, where it was made, how it was made, etc. That's what's meant here. And you're talking about a country of people. You're talking about a continent of people. You're talking about all types of countries, and cities, and towns, and villages. There are all different types of narrators. People who come from all different places, all different backgrounds. We have to have a detailed system. And we explained this. The virtue of the Muslims with regards to how far they were and how advanced they were. Khairan inshallah ta'ala. So we have, for example, he mentions here Ibn Jurayj. He has two kunyas, Abu al-Walid or Abu Khalid. Or whose kunya is the name of his father, like Abu Ishaq, Ibrahim ibn Ishaq, etc. One of the tabi'eens, Ishaq ibn Abi Ishaq as-Sabi'i. Okay. Khairan inshallah ta'ala. People that are, he says, وَمَن نُسِبَ إِلَى غَيْرِ أَبِيهِ أَوْ إِلَى أُمِّهِ أَوْ إِلَى غَيْرِ مَا يَسْبِقُ إِلَى الْفَهْمِ. He says here, and those who are attributed to other than their fathers, are those who get names and titles that aren't what they obviously seem to be. A person gets a name, but he doesn't actually have that job or that profession. Like Khalid al-Hadda. the shoemaker. He wasn't a shoemaker, but he used to sit in the company of people who made shoes. Leather craftsmen, sandals for people. He never made them himself. What's the point of this? The faida of this, first faida of it, we've previously explained with regards to distinguishing and differentiating. And the second faida is, this is from the lata'if, the subtleties and the sweet benefits of this science, and the interesting facts. People that are attributed to someone who isn't actually their father. This person raised him, he adopted him, he manumitted him, etc. So he was attributed to his father or attributed to his mother for one reason or another. All different types of issues of genealogy, all different types of issues of knowing one's lineage, knowing one's tribe, and the list goes on. And the list goes on. People who migrate to a place, people who migrate to a place, they're not actually from that place. This person isn't actually from Yemen originally. He came from North Africa, then he migrated to Yemen. He stayed there for 10 years. He got married, he had children. وهكذا. The roots of people and the genealogy of the people. And before we move forward, not only is this a part of the sciences of hadith, but it goes to show us that it's not haram for a person to know his or her lineage, and for a person to be familiar with his or her lineage or his or her background. Okay, so that's something that we need to take in mind, be mindful of in 2018. With regards to those who are extreme concerning blood and lineage and nationality and background, and those who go the other extreme and push people away from learning their background and learning their genealogy and learning where they come from. But they actually don't do that. They only look down upon certain people learning their lineage. Others can, but not you. So we have to be aware of both sides of this coin of extremism. Khairan, inshallah. Moving forward. He says, وَمَنْ اتَّفَقَ اسْمُهُ وَاسْمُ أَبِيهِ وَجَدِّهِ وَاسْمُ شَيْخِهِ وَشَيْخِ شَيْخِهِ فَصَاعِدًا وَمَنْ اتَّفَقَ اسْمُ شَيْخِهِ وَالرَّاوِي عَنْهُ. He says here, moving forward, also we have the issue of when a person's name, that of his father and that of his grandfather are all the same, or the name of his sheikh and his sheikh's sheikh are all the same, or when a person's name, he says, or the name of his sheikh, وَاتَّفَقَ اسْمُ الشَّيْخِ وَالرَّاوِي عَنْهُ, he has the same name and his student, the one who narrated from him. Just like we mentioned before, to distinguish and not to mix up and jumble up. As far as those who have the same name as their fathers and their forefathers, he mentions كالحسن ibn al-Hasan ibn al-Hasan ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu, وقد يقع أكثر من ذلك وهو من فروع المسلسل. He says here, or do you have the personality such as Hassan, the son of Hassan, the son of Hassan, the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu. So he has the same name as his father and his grandfather. Why? Is it a mistake in the manuscript? How is the same name written 3 times? No, it's not a mistake. It's one person. He says, and this happens often, or even more than that. Sometimes even all the narrators have the same name. And this is from the Furu' al-Musalsal. What we explained, or the Hadith Musalsal, this is regarding that. Khairan, inshallah ta'ala. As far as the name of the sheikh and the student being the same, etc., he says, كَأَبِي الْيُمْنِ الْكِنْدِي هو زيد ibn al-Hasan ibn Zayd ibn al-Hasan ibn Zayd ibn al-Hasan. He says, we have the narrator whose name is Abu al-Yuman al-Kindi. His name is Zayd ibn al-Hasan. And he's the son of Zayd ibn al-Hasan and the son of Zayd ibn al-Hasan. You see how it works? When we have in English, someone has a junior, Louis the 13th, Louis the 16th, this one, that one, etc. He says in the name of the Rawi and the Sheikh, he says, كَإِمْرَان عن إمران عن إمران. الأول يعرف بالقصير والثاني أبو رجاء العطاردي والثالث ابن حسين الصحابي رضي الله عنه. He says, such as a narration in which the chain says Imran, from Imran, from Imran. Three narrators all have the same name. It's not a mistake, it's not an error, but it's actual reality. The first one, obviously, his nickname was Al-Qasir, the short one. The second one is Abu Raja al-Utaridi, the Tabi'i. And the third was Imran ibn Hussein, the companion, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And you'll find many, many examples of this mentioned in the bigger books. He says, وَمَعْرِفَةُ الْأَسْمَاءِ الْمُجَرَّدَةِ وَالْمُفْرَدَةِ. He says, and knowing the names that are, sometimes we have the names which are, he says, mujarrad, without any lineage, any ascription. Or we have, for example, names that are unique, that no one else has. Or we have the names of specific men from a specific book. Knowing these different issues like this, all similar to what we previously mentioned, Khairan inshallah ta'ala. Names which are very unique and no one else has. طيب. He says, وَالْكُنَى وَالْأَلْقَابِ. The kunyas and the alqabs. As we mentioned before, a person has a nickname because of what he looks like, where he comes from, his trade, a habit, something that he used to do. Al-A'raj, Al-A'mash, Al-Zayyat, Al-Saman, etc. He says, وَالْأَنْسَابِ وَتَقَعُوا إِلَى الْقَبَائِلِ وَالْأَوْطَانِ بِلَادًا أو ضياعا أو سككا أو مجاورة وإلى الصناع والحرف ويقع فيها الاتفاق والاشتباه كالأسماء وقد تقع ألقابا ومعرفة أسباب ذلك. He says also one's lineage, as we previously mentioned, people being ascribed and affiliated with countries, with tribes, with clans, with families, people being orphans and adopted, streets, towns, people neighboring. He was never actually from Philadelphia, but he was actually from the outskirts of Philadelphia. So people attributed him to Philadelphia, but he's never actually from Philadelphia. Or this person isn't from New York City. They're actually from Long Island. He's actually from Long Island, but he says I'm from Queens, New York. But in actuality, he isn't a resident of Queens, and he never was a resident of Queens. But he used to go there, he used to visit, he used to drive there, he used to hang out there, but he actually isn't from there. Mujawaratan. Precision, as we mentioned. He says jobs and occupations. Jobs and occupations. He says, and oftentimes these jobs, these occupations, these nicknames, they're the same, just like the actual names are. And sometimes there's confusion and people are mixed up, just like with first names. He says, and why is this? The reasons behind all of these things. وَمَعْرِفَةُ الْمَوَالِي مِنْ أَعْلَى وَمِنْ أَسْفَلَ بِالرِّقِّ أَوْ بِالْحِلْفِ. He says, and also knowing the mawali, plural of mawla, the plural of mawla, the highest and the lowest. The interesting fact in Arabic language, the word mawla has two very opposite meanings. Sometimes the word mawla means master, and sometimes the word mawla means slave, or freed slave, or manumitted slave. The same word. So the mawla can be the one who manumits, one who frees the slave. He blesses him by giving him or her their freedom. And the word mawla can also mean the actual one who was freed, who was manumitted, who was emancipated. For the purpose of knowing the different tribes, clans, families, who's originally from this family, who isn't originally from this family. As we said before, knowing one's roots. Knowing one's roots. And the whole concept of the Arabic language and Islamic culture and Arabic or Arabian culture and one's background, one's family, is a very important concept to them. Very important where you come from and who you are. And there are other nations, other civilizations as well, in which the people look at a person's father. Who is he? Where does he come from? Or, unfortunately, people being looked down upon. Oh, he's a slave. He was a slave. for judging a person by their background, which isn't Islamic. That's from Jahiliyyah, of course. So this is very dangerous. A person has to be careful by going too deep into this. And oftentimes it is a reason behind a person taking pride unjustly, okay, or looking down upon someone unjustly. Khayran inshaAllah ta'ala. Moving forward. He says, وَمَعْرِفَةُ الْإِخْوَةِ وَالْأَخَوَاتِ, and knowing sisters and brothers. Who are the sisters, who are the brothers? A whole entire family of narrators. A whole entire family of hadith scholars. Who narrates from who heard from who, etc. And this goes to show, and this is summarized, we're just mentioning point by point, it goes to show you how deep the rabbit hole of ilm al-hadith truly becomes. And a person can spend his life and he wouldn't reach the very bottom and master everything. He says, وَمَعْرِفَةُ أَدَابِ الشَّيْخِ الطَّالِبِ, and a person to know and to study the etiquettes of the master and etiquettes of the learner. The etiquettes of the master and of the learner, the student and the teacher, as we've explained in many books and many lectures as well. The adab of talib al-hadith and of a scholar of hadith. Many of the problems that we suffer from today in the dawah scene are based off of us either not knowing these etiquette, or these manners and this etiquette, or us infringing upon them and violating them. But I would guarantee you, if you made a list out of 10 main problems that the Muslims suffer from today with regards to the dawah scene, Allahu Alam, you could probably find maybe 7 out of 10 based off of this. Either this student of knowledge, this scholar, this imam, this doctor doesn't know these etiquettes, which is very far-fetched. You can't go but so far up the ladder of seeking ilm unless you know these things. But for argument's sake, he's ignorant, or he's heedless, he needs to be reminded, or they just don't care. I know this is wrong, but I'm a scholar, so I can do whatever I want to do. Because these stupid people will listen to me, and they'll follow me. They'll spend all of their wealth. They'll spend their lives. They'll destroy everything just to curry my good favor. So why should I do the right thing? This is very unfortunate and very sad. Moving forward, he says, وَالسِّنُّ التَّحَمُّلِ وَالْأَدَاءِ, and also what is the age in which a person can receive a hadith. What is the age in which a person can report a hadith? How old can the person be? 5 years old? Or does it have to be, or do they have to be 7, at least 7? How old, what is the least the person can be in age with regards to hearing something and then reporting it? With regards to reporting it, we know they have to be at a certain age. They have to be adad, they have to be baligh, of age, pubescent. But seeing the hadith, hearing the hadith, different story. The narration of a non-Muslim, us accepting it, no. But the non-Muslim seeing it as a non-Muslim and then reporting it as a Muslim, a different story. Very important concept here from the sub-branches of ilm al-hadith. He says, وَصِفَةُ أو وصفة كتابة الحديث وعرضه وسماعه وإسماعه والرحلة فيه. Another very important aspect of this science is to know the etiquettes of writing down hadiths. The etiquettes of writing books of hadith. Obviously, in the past, without the printing press, as we've explained. وعرضه, the etiquettes of reading the hadiths to someone else, to the sheikh you're trying to get ijazah from. He says, وإسماعه, the etiquettes of dictating hadiths, the etiquettes of reading hadiths and teaching hadiths, of having a majlis of hadith. And traveling to do that. Where do you go? Where do you start? Who do you listen to? Who do you learn from? Etc. The etiquettes of traveling to seek knowledge. The etiquettes of traveling to seek hadith. As we've explained in many lectures and many books. How to write down hadiths. Should you use your left hand? Can you hold the book with your left hand? Do you cross it out? Do you scratch it out? Can you use whiteout? How to put the margin, the footnotes, the date, signing it, stamping it, protecting your notes, recopying or copying the notes, rewriting them, trading notes, giving someone your notebook, All of these things are very important. And these are all from the reasons behind a person's hadith becoming bad. As we mentioned, Nukhbatul-Fikr, a person being precise in his or her book. You don't have the best memory, but I take very, very good notes. I'm very accurate. I don't let no one take my notebook. I check my notes, I rewrite them, I store them. In today's modern time, alhamdulillah, you put them on a cloud, a drive, so you have them wherever you go, etc. You make a PDF of your own notes, so it's preserved for the next generation. He says here, وَتَصْنِيفِهِ إِمَّا عَلَى الْأَسَانِيدِ إِمَّا عَلَى الْمَسَانِيدِ أَوْ الْأَبْوَابِ أَوْ الْعِلَلِ أَوْ الْأَطْرَافِ. He says here, and knowing how to write a book on hadith, how to make tasnif on a book of hadith. Imma ala al-masanid, arranging them and compiling them according to the Sahaba. Not the topic, but the actual companion, like Musnad Imam Ahmad, as we've explained. Or the abwab, meaning Kitab Tahara, Kitab Salah, Kitab al-Janaiz, Kitab al-Zakah, Kitab al-Sawm, Kitab al-Hajj, Kitab al-Buyu', Kitab al-Jihad, Kitab al-Nikah, etc. And then the abwab inside of the kitab, as we've explained as well. He says, awal ilal, or organizing them based off of the ilal, the hidden defects therein. Al-Musnad al-Mu'allal. He says, or al-Atraf, the first part of the hadith. Just give me the first snippet of the hadith. And then ... And then you reference it from there. He says, وَمَعْرِفَةَ سَبَبِ الْحَدِيثِ وَقَدْ صَنَّفَ فِيهِ بَعْضُ الشُّيُوخِ الْقَاضِي أبي يعلى ابن الفراء وصنفوا في غالب هذه الأنواع وهي نقل محض ظاهرة التعريف مستغنية عن التمثيل. He says here, and also knowing the sabab of the hadith. The sabab of the hadith, as we say, asbab al-wurud and asbab al-tahdith. Why did the Prophet say these words? And why did the companion narrate those words? This hadith shows us that the Prophet, he made this statement. He is claimed to have made this statement concerning these people, concerning this specific issue, concerning. And it doesn't mean that it's general or it is specific, depending. Yani the fiqh of the hadith oftentimes is based off of the sabab. Why was the hadith even reported or narrated? And we've explained that as well. And he mentions some of the scholars of the past who wrote books on that. He says in most of the cases, in most cases, the scholars of hadith, they've written a specific book on these topics. There's a book just specifically on Mubham, a book specifically on Du'afa, the weak narrators, a book specifically on Sahih Hadith, a book specifically on Al-Asma wal-Kuna, a book specifically on Al-Akhwa wal-Akhawat, a book specifically on Al-Mutashabih, etc. Like we've mentioned. He then goes on to, rahimahullah ta'ala, finish the book and conclude his work by saying, "He naqlun mahdun zahirat at-ta'rif mustaghniyatun an tamthil." He says these concepts are well known. The concepts are well known. They're well known to the people. We don't need no further examples. I'm just reporting and quoting on that which already exists. وحصرها متعسر فلتراجع لها مبسوطاتها. He says, and it's almost impossible for a person to count and to gather and to collect and compile all of the subgenres of hadith and all of the different sub-branches and the sub-fields. It's almost impossible. There's so many. As we said, the rabbit hole is extremely deep, endless. It doesn't end. Because one branch, then another branch branches off, and you have specific branches of one tree that come from another tree. وهكذا. He says, وَاللَّهُ الْمُوَفِّقُ وَالْهَادِي لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is al-muwaffiq, He is the one who gives the tawfiq. He blesses the slaves and He endows them with true guidance, true intuition, and the actual success to perform it physically. And He is the one who guides, subhanahu wa ta'ala, and hadi. And there's no God but Him. No one has the right to be worshipped but Him. Alhamdulillah, this is the end of the book. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the ability, giving us the strength for finishing it and concluding it. And I would like to thank all of the listeners, brothers and sisters, disciples and disciples, wherever you are, whether you're in the Cape, whether you're in Karachi, whether you're in Poland, okay, wherever you may be, Mississauga, wherever you are, and Allah Azza wa Jall's earth, Lima, Peru, wherever you are, Hadith disciples around the world, thank you for listening. And I hope that this humble commentary and this humble explanation will be a means of service to Hadith and will be a means of helping you in your quest and learning and gaining skill in this ilm. Jazakumullahu khairan. Thank you very much for listening. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.